Hey everybody, Heather here. So today we're going to be working on our June 2013 Copic monthly card kit, and this month I've chosen this very cute Stamping Bella image called Ava Loves to Celebrate. And if you are watching this later and like to see if it's still available, just head over to the store and in the search bar of the store type in Ava Loves to Celebrate, and if it's available it'll pop up. Otherwise check out this month's monthly kit. And I've already stamped my image on Nina 80-pound solar white cardstock with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. So let's color. Okay, so let's start by coloring your skin, and for that we're going to use E21 and E00, and then for her cheeks we're going to use R20 and R30. And let's start down here on her legs. And I'm going to only use the two skin tones for her skin today because her legs and her body they're pretty skinny, and so we're not going to need that much color. So let's start up here with our E21. And we're going to go right underneath of her skirt just a little bit. And I refilled my pen, so of course I refilled it too far. Alright, I think I blobbed it enough off there. It was pooling up. And I even took the other end off my lid. I just put way too much ink in there. Okay, so we're going to lightly go down the back of her leg here with our E21. And like I said, her leg is very skinny, so I'm just barely touching her foot here with my pen. And let's go ahead and get the back of this one. So all the way down till we come to this little flower down here. Okay, and then we're going to grab E00. And we're just going to fill that in. So I still laid my pen down on top of my 21. And we're just going to lightly brush over the 21 and fill in the rest of the white. Brush that right up here at the top of her foot. I'll go up here and get this foot, our leg I mean. And we're just going to go right down to the bottom. Brush a little bit more up here. Okay. And we're going to go up here and we're going to do her arms. So I've again grabbed my E21, and let's go ahead and go down the back of this arm. Just a little bit. And we'll do the bottom, and then it gets really skinny, and I'm just going to fill in her hand. Then I want to go over the top of her dress, and I want to go down the inside of this arm. Then I'm going to grab my E00, and we're going to fill that in. So touch down on your 21, and brush away out here towards the white. And same for her arm. We'll go down here and we'll fill the rest of that in. And even though I colored her hand in, I still go over her hand down there again with the light color just to blend it a little bit better. And I'm going to go ahead and just fill in her neck with this one. That's a very dinky neck. Okay, for her face, I kind of want it to look like, I think I'm going to make it a little bit more shadowed over here on this side. So I'm going to take my pen, and I've got E21, and I'm just going to I'm going to make it my line just a little bit wider. And I still want to get inside of her ear there, and we'll do inside this ear, and then I'm going to make a very small line along the bottom of her face in this side, but I also want to do right next to her bangs right here, so I'm going to do a little bit next to her bangs. Then I'm going to grab my E00, I'm going to go up here, I'm going to fill in her ear, so let's brush down on top of our 21. Let's go ahead and get this ear too, so I don't forget that one. And then when I come down here onto her face, I touch down on 21, and I just flick towards the middle. And same for this side, I'm going to touch down on 21, and then flick towards the middle. and then we're going to add a little bit of cheek color, so I'm going to grab R20. Let's give her some cheeks right over here. And let's curve it around and give her a little bit right here. And then I'm going to grab R30 to blend that. So we touch down the edge of our R20 and flick out just a little bit past. And then I'm going to go back into her face again, so I'm going to grab E21. And I'm just going to lightly flick onto her cheek, maybe add a little bit more to that ear. I'm going to get a little bit on this side. And then E00, smooth our line.
Next, let's do her hair, and for that we're going to use E79, E77, and E74. I'm going to start with E79, and she's got some great curls up here. And so what I'm going to do, and she does have two flowers right here, so you don't want to color those. So I'm going to go in with my E79, and I'm just going to give a few of these little swirls some color. Maybe back here just a little bit. Nothing too technical, just gave it a little couple of swirls up in there. And then for her bangs, we're going to go up here and I'm going to flick down away from that headband and those leaves just a little bit. And then I'm going to grab my E77, and for her curls up here, I'm just going to go around those circles that I just made and make them a little bit bigger. That looks pretty good. And then she's got this little bitty patch of hair right here next to this flower. I'm going to go ahead and just fill that in with this 77. And then for her bangs, we're going to add a little bit on top. So touch down on your previous color and just brush down a little bit further. And then we're going to fill the whole thing in with our E74. So I'm just going to go ahead and do her bangs since I'm right here. And again, you'll touch down on top of your 77 and you'll brush all the way to the ends with your 74. I think I'll go over that line a second time. Still got a little bit showing right there. Okay, and then for her little swirls up here, I'm going to go ahead and fill that space in that's obvious that it's not, that's got a bunch of white areas. Careful down here around your flowers. Headband. And then for these little swirls that come off of her head here, I'm going to go ahead and just give those a little bit of color, like this one up here. Like that. So next, let's move on to the headband and her dress. And for that, we're going to use V01, V000, V000, and then our colorless blender. So I'm going to start up here at her headband with V01, and I'm going to give it a little bit of dark right next to that little leaf, and then a little tiny dab over here on this side of the headband. And then I'm going to grab V000, and then I'll touch down on my V01 and just smooth that line. Then I'll fill in that little tiny dab there with V000. And if you want it to be darker, you could go ahead and go over it a second time. But I'm going to move down to her dress. And so I'm going to start up here at her bodice, and for that, again, I'm going to start with V01. And so I want it to be darkest right here where it touches her arm, and then along the little bow. And then V000. And I went over it a couple times there to smooth my line, and then V000 to fill it in. And again, if you wanted it to be darker, you'd just do it a second time. Now let's move down here to her skirt.
Let's zoom out just a little bit more. Okay, so for her skirt, I'm going to start with my V01, but she's also got some of these little ruffles down here, so before I even color the skirt, I'm going to go down and I'm going to add a few of these little lines. I'm going to exaggerate them. And bring them up just a little bit. And if you're afraid to do it with the darkest color, go ahead and do them first with the lightest color, and then you can come back and add them again later with the darker color, just so you don't have to worry. Okay, let's make some of these a little bit lighter, darker here. Bring them up. And then she's also got a couple up here towards her bodice. Let's go ahead and bring those down just a little bit more. Okay, so now that I've exaggerated my lines, I'm going to go ahead and start with my coloring. So I'm going to take my V01 and up here towards the top, I want to bring it down past her arm here just a little bit. And then I'm going to go around this bow and down the back of this dress. Okay. I'll actually connect my lines here with this line over here. So let's go ahead and just brush this all the way around and back over to this side. And then on this side, I want to again go down this side of the dress. And maybe bring this down just a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to grab V000. I'm going to fill in this little space above her arm here. And then let's brush around all the way around on all of this color, softening that line. And we're going to go all the way around. Make sure to brush over those pleats you put in. And I think I'll bring this color down below her arm here too. And I'm not too worried about it looking blotchy because I'm actually going to go over it a second time later. So now I'm going to grab my V000. And we're just going to brush over our last color, so V000. And I may not fill it all the way into the middle. I'm just trying to brush a little bit more color and soften that line on the sides. So I'm going to leave the middle part there white, and then when I come back the second time, I'll fill that in. Okay. I'm going to go back again with my V01. And I'm going to start up here. Let's flick down away from our bow. Down the side of her dress. Maybe bring this line up just a little bit more. Maybe exaggerate my pleats a little bit more. And let's do up here. And I think I'll actually, for these pleats up here, I'm going to go ahead and bring them down past her arm just a tad. Okay, then we're going to grab V000. And I'm going to lightly go over it up here, and then we're just going to brush right on that line and fill it in. See if we can blend some of that color out just a little bit more. Brush over our pleats. And we gotta make sure to do these pleats up here too. And down the side. And I think I'll do just a little bit down here underneath of my ruffle, just on the back side of this line that I made, 32, just a tad. Okay, and then we're going to fill in the top part of her dress here with V quadruple 0. So I'm just going to go ahead and brush right over our last color and fill in the middle here. I think I'll brush over it a third time. I'm going to brush clear from the top, clear down past the middle, using more of the side of my brush so I'm filling more area. And then down here, we're going to brush up past our darkest color up towards the middle. Like that. And then I'm also going to go down here and kind of swirl my color around down in this little lace she's got down here. And then to remove a little bit of that color that I just swirled on there, I'm going to take my colorless blender and just kind of go over it a little bit. Be careful not to get it on her leg. Like that. So now let's go up here and color these flowers and the bow on her dress and the bow on this packages. And for that we're going to use R35 and R32. And before I forget, I forgot to mention that when I stamped this girl, the inside of this skirt right here is really large. So you're going to want to be careful when you put the ink on there, because I had to stamp this like 4 times because I had ink in this little cute skirt part. So what I ended up doing is after I inked up my stamp, I took a Q-tip and just wiped it away because I kept getting ink in here. So you might want to practice first or just be super, super careful. So we're going to start up here with our flowers, and we're going to do R35 first. And for that, I'm just going to take my pen and I'm just going to give the center of each little flower a circle. Nothing technical. And then I'm going to take R32 and I'm going to swirl over that circle I just made and fill in the outside of the flower. Like that, and later we're going to add some stickles to that. And then we're going to go down here to her bow on her dress, and she's got a little bit right here behind her arm. So I'm going to go ahead and take my R35 and fill that in. And then on this side of her arm, I'm going to lightly flick away from her arm. So I missed a little patch right there. And then I'm going to take the 32 and I'll fill it in to the other side. And then I'm going to grab 35 again. I just got a couple little bows up here, so I'm going to fill in the underside of this bow. And being very careful because it's very small. Just the tip of my pen. Try not to color her arm. And then for this bottom bow, let's go ahead and flick away from her body and down here onto our bow. I think I'll bring the bottom out just a little bit more. And then we'll grab 32 to fill it in. So let's start up here. And we'll flick on top of 35. And then for the insides of the bow, I think I'll do just a little bit of my 35, maybe a little bit on this back side, and then fill that in with 32. And again, if you're not liking how dark it is, you'd go back over it a second time. Now I'm going to go down here and do this little package. So let's start with 35, and I'm going to fill in the knot. And then I'm going to give each one of these little bows a little flick. And let's do this side. Like that. And then for that, I'm going to make the middle part of this wrapper have dark. So let's go ahead and fill that in. And then let's get these little streamers coming off. I'm going to add a little bit here where it looks like it dips back in, so how the little loop comes out and then it dips back in. I'm going to add dark there. And let's add a little bit down here. And again, that's a really small Want to get your pin in there real close. Get the dipping in for that one. And we're going to dip on this side. And that dip. And then we're going to grab 32. And we're going to flick right on top of our 35. And then fill that in. You just want to touch down on top of your 35 so that it's pulling that color and softening your line. All the way down here. Again, remember some of these faces are really small, like this end of the bow. Whoa, really tiny. Just going to barely use the tip of my pin on that. It's also, she's got some little flowers on her shoes right here, and I forgot to color her shoe. But let's go ahead and do the flowers. And so for that, I've got my R35, and I'm just going to again swirl a little circle in the middle. And then I'm going to take my 32 and swirl it right over the top of it and just fill that in. And then let's do her shoe real quick since I forgot it. So I'm going to start with V01. And I'm not going to get to the very top of the shoe because I'm going to leave that for the lighter color. I'm just going to come down here, maybe leave the tip of that shoe a little bit wider. Same for this side, let's not go all the way to the top. I'm going to go along the bottom, and then I'm just going to leave the tip of her shoe that I will grab V000 to fill in. So V000, brush a little bit on the top of that shoe, and this shoe, her shoes are really small. Okay, since I got the package down here, let's go ahead and add some green to that. So I've colored the little lace out here with my green. You could leave it white if you wanted, but I'm going to use G24 and G21. So I'm going to start with my 24, and I'm just going to very lightly go down the edge of the red. And if you fill it all the way in, that's cool too. And then I'm going to go back with my 21 and just touch the very ends and fill in that white there. And I later went in with my stickles and added some stickles on top of them. Made them all shiny and glittery. Okay, and then we're going to also go up here and we're going to do these leaves. So again, just grab your 24. And I did a little bit of 24 right next to the flower, and then I kind of gave it a little line in the middle. Just pull that out just a little bit. And then I took my 21 and just went over the top, pulling out towards the end. So now let's go color the frosting on this cute little cake. So for that, we're going to use R01, R00, and R000. I'm going to start with R01. And I chose to do the very top frostings with the light pink. So I'm going to do R01 on this side of my cake so that it can be shinier over here. I'm just going to brush a little bit of that like that. Then I'm going to go down here to the next frosting with the dots. And I kind of kept it in the line with the one on the top. And then I grabbed R02, or sorry, R00, and brush right on the edge of that line. You want to touch down on top of it so that you can soften that edge. And then R000 to fill it in. Again, I wanted it to be a little bit pinker, so I did it again, so I went with my R01. And then R00. and then R000. Over here, missed a couple spots and just kind of swirl that around. So that looks pretty good for that frosting. I also use this pink down here on this bottom package. So again, I start with my R01, and I want this side of my package to be the darkest. Keep with the flow I got going. And we're just going to go right down the edge and pull that over just a little bit. And this package is sitting on top of it, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit there along the bottom of that package. And then grab R00, and we'll brush over that line. Brush right up here, get in between there, and I'm going to bring my line over to this side of my package. And I'm going to do clear along the bottom, and then I'm going to fill it in with R000. And again, to make it darker, I did it a second time. So I went back with my R01, R00, and then my R000 to fill it in. So now let's go up here and color the cake. So for that I'm going to use E53 and E51. I'm going to start with my E53, and I considered the cake the bottom little section. I made this section in here another frosting layer. So I took my 53 and I just went across like this and made it look like there's a little bit of cake showing, whoops, underneath that frosting. And then I filled it in with my 51. And make sure to touch down on top of E53 there on that little line so that you soften that edge. So next, let's do this frosting and the plate. So for that, we're going to use C01, C0, C00, and then if I need to, my colorless blender. So I'm going to start with C01, and I'm going to do this edge over here. So I'm just going to add a little bit, that right over here. And then for the plate, I'm going to go right next to where the cake is sitting on the plate. And I'm going to go C0, and I'm going to lightly brush on top of this C1. Just pull it out just a little bit further. I don't want to go all the way across. I want it to be white on the other side. And then for the plate, you're going to go right next to that line and just pull out just a little bit. And then C00. Again, I'm going to go right on the edge of that line and pull it just a tad. And then for the plate, I'm going to fill it all the way in. And then just to soften the edge of my cupcake right here where that line is, I'm going to go ahead and put my colorless blender, and I'm just going to brush it towards that gray. Just a bit. And that will soften that line. Just a bit there. That looks pretty good. So that leaves us with this package down here that I also colored with the grays. So I'm going to start with my C1, and I want this side of the package to be the darkest, so I'm going to lay down a little bit of my C1 over here. And then I'm going to grab C0. I'll brush right on that line. I think I'll pull it over to this side, maybe just a little bit past that bow. And then I'll use my C00 to just fill that in. Nothing too technical for that one. So as long as we're down here at the bottom, let's go ahead and give her something to stand on. And for that, I'm going to use W3, W2, and W1. I'm going to start with my W3. And I'm going to go right underneath the first shoe. So that's, and it all depends too how much room you have down here as to how close you stamped your image to the bottom. Go ahead and add a little bit underneath this shoe. And let's put a little bit underneath of this package. Like that. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to grab W2. I'm going to soften that line, so I'm going to go right over the top of my W3. And brush right. Extend that just a little bit. And you could go out as far as you wanted, or as little as you wanted. So I'm going to grab W1. And again, I'm just going to brush right over the top of those last two colors. And brush right over the edge of that one. And if that was a little too dark for you, I think mine looks fine, but you could also take your colorless blender if you wanted, and then just lightly go over the whole ground area there, and that would soften it up if you think it's too dark for you. Just depends on what you like. And then to finish my image, I took my C0 pen and I went all the way around the outside of my image. So I'm just going to take my C0, I'm going to start in between her legs here and go clear down to the ground and just give it a small line right next to her body. And for me, that just makes it pop out just a little bit. Same for up here. We're going to go around all these great little loops by her skirt. And we'll make sure to get underneath of a plate. And we're going to go clear up here to the top of our cake, but we just want to go all the way around. And you can see it pretty good when you first lay it down, but after it dries, you're hardly going to see it. But for me, it just makes it look like it pops up off the page just a little bit. I want to go around her hair. And back down this other side. And yeah, I'm also going to go around the packages. Make sure to get it inside the bows and go down that side. So that is our cute little Ava Loves to Celebrate image. So let's put her together. Okay, so first off, let's go ahead and distress our image. So I've got my nonstick craft mat here. I've got my girl, I've got some Ranger Distress Antique Linen just ink, and then I've got my sponge dauber. So I'm going to go ahead and take my sponge dauber, and I'm just going to, I always start with my scrubbing on my ink over here on my nonstick craft mat and kind of swirl it around a little bit and then pull it onto my image. So I'm not getting quite so much ink directly onto my girl. It kind of rubs some of it off over here on the outside first. But I'm just going to go all the way around. And you can add more if you feel that it needs more. Just kind of go by what you're looking at. And I'm going to add some along the bottom here. Okay, and I think I'll actually do, maybe pull a little bit further in down here on some of this blank space. And same for this side. Got quite a bit of white area there. I think I'll pull a little bit more ink into. Grunge it up some more. Okay, so that's her. Let's put that over here. So we can go ahead, let me get all my stuff out here. And I'm going to go ahead and stick her down on top of her mat. So I've got a little brown mat here, and we're going to take your favorite adhesive
and just glue her down. Onto this. Oops. Like that, and then we'll set her aside. Okay, and then it looks like I have some ribbon that goes behind some stuff, so I want, before I attach it to the card base, I'll want to add some things. I'm going to go ahead, and this little stamp set didn't come with a sentiment, so I made one up. It says "Hooray for Birthdays." So I'm going to go ahead and attach that to its little mat, like that, and set that over here with my girl. And then I've got this brown mat, and I'm going to take this pink piece, or you can choose red, and I chose the red so that it would match the bow on her dress, but she would look equally as cute on top of the pink. And actually, I think this time I'm going to turn it over and do the pink side. So let me add some glue to the back of my red here. Just to switch it up, I'm going to turn it over. Then I'll have two different cards for the store. Okay, and we're just going to stick that down like that. And then next will come this cute little piece with the dots. And this one had a design on the back, so you're probably not going to want to use it the other side, but we're going to use the little dot side. Okay, and then we're just going to attach that onto this piece. I'd say there's about 1/4 of an inch of the pink showing on this side. Okay, and what else do we got? Oh, we have this little dotty border and this little striped piece. And if you wanted, you could use this red part on the back. Okay, so let's add some glue to the back of that. Okay, I'm going to attach that to this one. Oops. Get a little bit closer here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so then I have my bow that's going to go... I'm going to go ahead and attach this first, though, and then put the bow on. Okay, so we're going to have this piece go across like this, and then we're going to have our bow. So I've already taken my bow, and I never have mine go all the way around the back. Mine just goes like this, and then I tape it. So I've got my handy dandy transparent tape, and I'm just going to hold it down here in the middle, and I know my girl's going to be right here, so I'm just going to tape it right like that. And then I'm going to grab a little bit for the back. Make sure it's straight, flip it over, tape it down, grab some for the other side, make sure this side is straight, flip it over, tape it down, and then I take this and I'm going to adhere this to my card base. And then you would decide which way you want your card to open before you attach this. So if you want it to open to the side, you would just make sure it was flipped that way. And I'm going to stick this down. Okay, and then I already did, I already tied my bow with my Bow Easy already, and there's a whole nother video on that in the list of videos I've done on a how-to video later. I think it's in a playlist too. But I've already done that. But I'm going to take, I cheat and I take my glue dots. And over here where I know my bow is going to be, I take a glue dot and I kind of smush up my ribbon and I stick it underneath there so that it looks like it's actually been tied there. You could also tie the bow around right here too. I just always choose to take my Bow Easy and make the bow up and then stick it on. Okay, so there's so far for that. Let's go ahead and add some dots to the back of our girl. So I'm going to take some pop dots. And we'll pop dot her up. Put a few. And these are the littler ones. I think these are 1 1/16 inch pop dots that I always use. And we will just pop dot that. Yes. And I want a little bit of the pink paper to show on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and look at that. And then we'll stick her down. And then we'll grab a glue dot for the back of my bow. And I'm going to stick that right here. Like that. And then I take my scissors and I trim my bow however I want that to be. That leaves us with our sentiment. So for that, I always use a little bit bigger pop dot, so I'm going to use the next size up. I think these are a 1/4 or an 1/8, and I put a bigger one over on the side that's going to be on her, and then I'm going to take a smaller one over here where it's actually going to be on her, so it's not quite so far up. Like that. And then I'm going to take her and just kind of go, let's go right about right here. That looks pretty good right there. Just give that a good smush to smush that down. Alright, so what does that leave us with? Oh, let's put some dots on our cheek, and for that I'm going to use my Sharpie white paint pen. I'm going to give it a good shake before I put it on. I always shake it with the lid on, otherwise you spray it out of the pen and it gets on your project. And I'm just going to give her a couple of dots on her cheek. And the pen is pressure release, so the harder you push, the more ink you get, so just a little bit. And then I'm going to use my Spica clear glitter pen to add some sparkles to her hair. So I just kind of went in, and she's got these great swirls in here, and just swirled my pen around on some of those swirls. Did some of these little swirls that came out. And a couple little flicks in her bangs. Then next, let's do, and I usually do all of this stuff when this girl is sitting on the counter before I attach her to the card, but just to save time, and you can't watch it dry, so I just decided to do it this way. So next, this month in your kit, I gave you a little sample of this little glamour dust glitter in a little baggie. And so for that, I'm going to take my Quickie glue pen, and I'm just going to dot it on her dress. So like up here at the top of her dress, I'm just going to add a few dots along this ribbon, and then let's add a few, and it was random. I just took my pen and added dots on her dress. And also, if you did it beforehand, you would not get any of this glitter on that bow or anything else, but I'm going to have a big mess. So you just take your glitter and dump it on there. And I always take mine and put it on a piece of just plain white paper, and then dump the glitter back off onto my paper, so I can dump it back into the package, because there is a lot, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a lot of glitter there that just dumped off of the girl. But I'm going to put that back in. And that little bag of glitter I gave you should last for a while. But there, I just added some little glitter sparkles to her dress. And then I also took my stickles and I added that to these cute little flowers in her hair, the flowers on her shoes, and then I gave a little dab down the sides on this green ribbon here, and then up here on this frosting I went ahead and dabbed some on the white frosting. Just gave it some glitter in there. That. And then it looks like I also did, I can't remember if I did the glitter dots on these little dots up here, the glamour dust, or I did the stickles, but since I already put the stickles on and it's all wet, I'm just going to dab a little bit of glitter stickles onto my little circles on my pink frosting.
but I think I used the Glamour Dust. And then down here I also added some stickles to my lace down on my dress. Made her dress sparkly. But that is our June 2013 Copic coloring card kit. Whoops, I'm getting glitter on my ribbon here. And this is Ava Loves to Celebrate. So thanks for coloring with me today. We'll see you next time. Bye.